It's October the 13th, 2015. I'm Dana Durnford, also known as the nuclearproctologist.org, and you can find my videos and these Fukushima presentations at Beautiful Girl by Dana on YouTube. This is episode 1. And so each of these episodes are meant to tell the story. And so the whole story in these episodes is coming out. And yesterday, the pilot episode, we covered Unit 1, Unit 2, and the common spent fuel pools. Today's unit, finish off Unit 2. Girl by Dina on YouTube. And we are streaming live. This is episode 1. And we are streaming live. And I just froze on my end. And that's okay too. I'm going to close down that other one. And so each of these episodes are an hour long, and then there's an hour and a half questions and answers after, thereabouts, depending. If we get lots of questions, pertinent and important questions that we didn't cover concerning today's show. And so each day is a different show. Tomorrow's show is about the jet stream on the 14th of October, and the 15th of October is about the Pacific Ocean. And so by the time we get 10 to 15 episodes in, it's an extraordinary documentation of Fukushima told factually, and with the documentation, like you see behind me, supplied for you the entire way through. I think it's a very good thing. And so the chat room is going, flying. I am recording the comments and the video. And just in case Google rips us off and don't put all the video up, I'll chop out the section that's missing and repost it. But also I want to be able to try to get through the comments. And I know yesterday's 700, 800, 900 comments or something. And the comments do not show up after the video has rendered and come back up. And so that's why I have to do what I'm doing. So it's a little bit extra work, or a lot of extra work, and that's fine too. And so yesterday we covered the meltdown, melt-throughs, and melt-outs of Unit 1 and Unit 2, and also the spent fuel pool in Japan. And so today we'll pick up at Unit 2 and finish out those headlines. And so yesterday, and we'll just start at the beginning of this folder and we'll be finished that one. All of the reactor's fuel may have melted. And I got to keep my eye on the comment section, which is over here sometimes, just in case my audio goes missing or the stream stops. The hounds and everybody else in the chat room. I'll come in after 1 hour show and we'll talk to everybody, say hi to everybody. And right now I'm saying hi to everybody. But these episodes are very important, so we'll get right into it. Experts conclude no nuclear fuel is left inside the Fukushima reactors. Now, we covered this particular headline yesterday. And so number 5, you can see they looked at it with this Muron, this highly technical technique. And this is Unit 2 over here. And so Unit 2, that little square inside that circle is what they're talking about, just for context for you. And so there's no fuel in number 2. There's not a number 1 either. We covered that yesterday dramatically. Simply impossible to remove melted fuel from Fukushima. And the corium, which is the melted down reactor itself, has spread all over and could have gone through the floor of the containment vessel. Now we know the containment vessel was cracked and had holes through it, and that the earthquake broke these buildings, as the pilot show we covered. And so if you really want to learn about Fukushima, these episodes, the pilot show, this one here, is designed to really give you a comprehensive understanding of each section of it with just the data, with just the headlines and the pictures and diagrams that are available. But yesterday's live stream, we had 26 thumbs down before the stream was over. And we had another 5 since then in 800 views. And so the nuclear industry, and we're going to do episodes on the nuclear industry and the PR firms and how maniacal these people actually are and demented and twisted later in the programs of these episodes. So they say the only way to deal with these reactors releasing dangerous radiation is to cover it in cement. Now, that's what they've done in Chernobyl, but you can't actually do that because they're still in chain reactions. And Chernobyl stopped after 10 days. Chernobyl was equal to 400 Hiroshima bombs. You still can't sell the land in huge swaths of UK, Europe, including Ireland, Scotland, and UK itself. And you can't drink the milk or eat the meat there 28 years later. And so the assertions that no radiation could make it to North America through the PR firms and your medias, which is PR firms, is why we exist, because the lies have to come to a stop. And people have to understand that, you can't cover these reactors. You have to stay on that site and try to save the planet. That's how bad this is. We've already killed the Pacific Ocean, and we'll do, in 2 days' time, we'll be doing the Pacific Ocean. The big question is, where did Fukushima's melted fuel go? June the 23rd, 2015, no one even knows where it is. The world's never seen anything like this. We have 3 nuclear cores that hit the groundwater. They left the buildings. Chernobyl stayed in the building. And so, this headline you see is a direct result of Dana and the Hounds of Fukushima. That we have pummeled the opposition, which is nothing but lies and conjectures, and certainly lies and more lies about potatoes and bananas and walking in sunshine and getting on airplanes and dental x-rays in the context of a nuclear accident. Anybody that says that is just, they have no moral standard whatsoever, let's put it that way. And so you can see all the headlines at the bottom of each of these stories. AP, Shimbu, Mancini, and South China Morning. The world has never seen a case like Fukushima where nuclear fuel melted and fell through. Right? Chernobyl stopped, turned to an elephant's foot after 10 days. But still, once again, that's 400 Hiroshima bombs throughout European countries. Devastating. But the industry hit it really well. You got to think about how much money, and the people that work for the industry are probably the most demented ones out there. Closing Fitzpatrick nuclear plant. This was yesterday's headline, I think. Going to cost CNY an estimated $500 million a year. They're going to lose $500 million a year in that community. And so they will lie and attack me endlessly if I was to come out and talk about why they should close that plant. Because these people are making enormous amounts of money at their jobs. They're making, average is $120,000 a year, is not counting the benefits. Trust me, it's not counting the benefits. And counting the overtime and counting everything else. That's their wages. But the average worker anywhere else is getting $48,000 a year, 17% below the state average. But all nuclear plants, just that one plant, the payroll is $74 million. There's $1 billion for security, so the terrorists don't get it. But if they release it in your community, it doesn't matter. It's like a banana or a potato chip. But if a terrorist gets it, you got to give up all your freedom and give them extra billions of dollars. Yeah? They have to dig up mountains just to get their hands on this stuff. It's the most carbon-intensive thing on the planet. But yet they're claiming that it's carbon-free. Just like they claim it's bananas and potato chips. Let's keep going back onto what we're supposed to be doing here. I just done that for context for you. So you can understand what's at stake for these people. They couldn't get a job serving french fries, but they can get $120,000 a year murdering you and your loved ones in this entire planet. And they like it, trust me. Officials fear melted reactor fuel is now exposed. And so for context, for people that are not familiar with the reactors, this is Unit 1 right quick. This is Unit 2 that we're talking about. Oh, that's not Unit 2, Dana. That's Unit 3. Unit 4. We'll get that in a second. That's Unit 2. That's 100% meltdown, melt through, melt out on top. And all the fuel is missing, like I was just showing you earlier. This is Unit 3 coming up. 100% meltdown, melt through, melt out. Are the cores exposed? Yeah. Are the fuel rods exposed? Yeah. Of course they are. But they say they may be over and all. And you'll see that all in these headlines coming up anyway. This is Unit 4, and inside of it they claim, these are the official pictures, all of it. And they claim that fuel pole is inside of that building in order to deceive you and trick you and manipulate you, and so you can't have a conversation with anybody. Because they don't look at the building behind it, all they see is this shiny structure. And so that's why what we're doing is so important for the people that are trying to understand it, or the people that, hang on, I missed that one. I gotta move that over so you can see what I'm doing coming up here. And back to the headlines. Not that one, that one. So officials fear the melted fuel is now exposed. But I mean, the pictures and the headlines yesterday, of course, on Unit 1 and 2, It shows all of that to be constant, always exposed. Experts struggling to find a condition of nuclear cores not is known for all 3 reactors. That's June the 10th, 2014. I think there's one more headline here. A U.S. expert, Fukushima melted fuel concern for millennia. Risk of criticality from corium moving. That's the melted core. That's the melted reactor. It's called a corium. From the melted, what you should say, the melted reactor moving, redistributing, TEPCO's chief, certainly a difficult path ahead. We'll have to pretend bananas and potato chips are actually nuclear waste for decades, till people goes to sleep. We'll be able to move forward. We can find the damaged fuel. No, you can't. You don't have the technology to do anything with the fuel. You can't move forward. You can't. All you're bringing in is the homeless to work on everything. You're not bringing in Harvard. You're not bringing in Yale. You're not bringing in Stanford. You're not bringing in Oxford. You're not bringing in MIT. Right? So how are you going to fix anything when all you bring in is the homeless? You think I'm kidding? Once again, let me play that clip. This is just a tiny
result. If a problem later occurs, they can say, well, the people on site, the workers made their own arbitrary decision to do this. It's not our fault. Another example, immediately after the first hydrogen explosion, TEPCO gave out an order a request to all of these labor dispatching companies, and they said, send us people who don't mind dying. At that time, it was really very much a panic situation, perhaps, but...
Oh, I didn't finish that. I was going to come in and say hi to Pink. Hi, Pink! We'll go back to that headline now. I finished that video off.
Normally, when you enter any area where there might be possible radiation exposure, you're always supposed to be issued a special kind of booklet. Or that.
And that was Pink Sapphire I was talking to, by the way. Anybody that's watching this later don't know what's going on. Okay, so that's the headlines for Unit 2. We covered all that yesterday. Now, and so let's go to Unit 3 and start right away on Unit 3, rather. And just for context, I'm going to bring up a picture of Unit 3, just in case you're confused and don't understand what it looks like. That's that pretty little thing up there in the corner. That's Unit 3. That's 100% meltdown, melt through, melt out. I don't need to show you headlines for you to comprehend that, do I? Okay, well I will anyway, just in case. Reactor 3 exploded a second time 24 hours later. UN. Then wind and rain brought high levels of radiation over Tokyo, Sendai, and Nagano. Now it also brought it all the way across North America because the jet streams and the ocean currents are real. But the jet streams get here in 3 or 4 days. And so it blanketed not only Japan, because the winds all come across the Pacific, so is the ocean current. But it will linger over Japan too, don't get me wrong. Possibility that the radiation from the MOX fuel in the reactor, a combination of uranium and plutonium, could be released. Possibility. Make sure I got that streaming for everybody, okay? Unit 3 MOX likely melted through. Uranium plutonium oxide. So mixed oxide fuel is what they really call it. May have dribbled out after melting again. Dribbled, they say. I gotta show you another. Dribbled. How can you say something inside of this building is only going to dribble? What kind of world do we live in when people say that? Well, we live in a world of nuclear PR firms. And where they minimize and they distort everything about the accidents. And so it is the biggest problem we got. I mean, the headlines are here. August 9, 2011, melted through. But the media is still after telling people that is no worse than a banana or a potato chip. They can't switch it off. They can't stop. And they have to do it all the time. They do it all the time to everybody. There's no trust anymore whatsoever in any media. There's not a journalist out there I can trust. There's not one out there who will tell you the truth without injecting the hooey of the nuclear industry, the lies and the manipulations. Most of the fuel at reactor number 3 may have breached the vessel after melting down twice. It's not like it ever stopped. But these are just the headlines, August 8, 2011. Most of the fuel may have breached the vessel after melting down. No. When it blew up, it ejected all the fuel rods completely out of it because they were on the roof and there ain't no roof there anymore. you know, these pictures were known to all these people, and they chose to tell you, you know, in terrible interpretations without showing you the picture. Why show you the picture when we can tell you a lie? If we show you a picture, we can't tell you that lie. If we say it's okay, then you look at the picture, you're like, well, you know, I don't think so. I don't know if I want to trust you anymore. And they're like, please trust me. That's what these people are like, where they won't show you the evidence. They'll just tell you a conjecture, and then everybody repeats it. Because everybody want to put their faith in the media. Nobody wants to believe that the media is demented. But it truly is. Because every time it talks about it. And I mean, I got prime examples of the whip accident. And just let me see if I can find that very quick. Here, Whippy. Whip it good. And so sometimes I got too much on my computer. Just give me one moment, though. We're probably not going to find it. Inside of Fukushima. Hang on a second. Here's Miles O'Brien. And he's going to say he's inside of Unit 4. I think I should play this
Part
one.
of the decommissioning work taking place here in Reactor 4.
At the end of our tour, we were checked for radiation exposure. In 4 hours, I received the equivalent of less.
So, you know, I got less than a check X-ray. At a nuclear plant, you ingest an atom, you get an autoimmune or a cancer down the road. And there's 1,800 of them. But that's the building that he said he's in, and he says it's inside of this building. It's the most ludicrous things imaginable. So he's lying to you, 100%. He's fabricating it to sell you the story. And so when I talk to people, people will say, well, Dana, he was in there, Dana, he was in Unit 4. They're taking the fuel out. And I've had people do it to me over and over and over. But that's why Unit 4 looks like behind me. You can't put that in there. It's not there at Chernobyl. You can't get into these buildings. Nobody's in there. But here's Miles O'Brien saying he's inside of it. But I'm going to be showing you these headlines that there's nothing there, that it caught fire, blew up. But you know, all you need is that picture, don't you? Do you need anything else to know that that is not true? Really? You know what I'm saying? But this is what they're doing to us. And it has to end. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. Massive remelting occurring at Reactor 3. That's right alongside of it. 2 million times worse than any other reactor on the planet. LA Times speculation a supercritical fission event occurred at Fukushima reactor irradiating plutonium. Plutonium is man-made. And plutonium will burn at a couple of 100,000 times hotter than the rest of the elements. The uranium is mostly uranium. The byproducts is the cesiums, the strontiums, the americiums, the neptuniums, blah, blah, blah. The 2,000 we know about, the 10,000 that are classified. And all of these will give you cancer. All of these will mutate fruit flies. Bananas can't. Potatoes can't mutate a fruit fly. They're not going to give you cancers. They're not going to give you Alzheimer's, dementia, diabetes, lung issues, respiratory. And we know that, once again, let me remind everybody who's not familiar of how we know that, you know, you've never heard of these studies unless you see it here, about Dr. Raymond Gilmedy from Loveless Respiratory Research, Lovelace. And he's got a huge credentials, 94 peer-reviewed academic studies on beagle dogs and beagle puppies. And just one of these studies, tumors of the lung, skeleton, and liver occurred beginning about 3 years after exposure. And lung tumors were found in 46 dogs, were the second most common. Bone tumors in 93 dogs were the most common cause. Liver tumors were found in 20 dogs. And tumors in these 3 organs often occurred in the same animals. And they were breeding a lot less radiation than what I'm talking about. And he killed these dogs for 35 years. They're still doing it in New Mexico. But all the studies you hear referred to was a 1-minute exposure. And MIT had told us about that. But let's, while we're at it, here's Whip apologizing with all the typical rhetoric you've been hearing for 7 years. But when Whip had a major release, a huge release, they rolled out the PR firms, which is your media, and here's the lies And it's about a minute long, but they play these lies over and over and over and over coming at you. And I got them together in a 1 minute clip. And they even attacked me. At the end of it, there's a clip of where they're attacking me. And I'm telling you the truth in that little clip. But they demonized me. I responded to them a while back. But I'm going to play that whole minute for you. Here we go.
First known release of radiation from the underground site on February 14th is very serious, but they insist that the radiation levels detected in and around the plant in the last 10 days are no riskier than a dental x-ray or an airline flight. They say so far the radiation levels detected are no more risky than a dental x-ray or an airline flight.
No danger to human health or the environment.
Average person in the U.S. gets exposed to more than 600 milliriems every year from naturally occurring radiation. They consider this radiation release not at all a danger.
No danger to human health or the environment.
WIP scientists say radiation levels are far below some of those in our everyday lives, like from medical x-rays and natural sources.
Most people will get more radiation exposure from eating bananas than they ever will from this New Mexico repository site.
More than 200 people were at a meeting in Carlsbad last night concerned about the radiation release at WIP.
I charge my iPhone every single night. I charge my iPad every single night. I touch that cord and that cord. I don't feel it. If I licked that cord, it wouldn't hurt me.
That's what officials are saying.
DOE, they will continue to monitor the levels on a constant basis.
The WIP leak has spawned a new wave
so
of
the winds are going to
conspiracy.
switch and change, and it's going to blow back. Evaporation is going to liberate it. It's going to get into the water, into all your fire. Dope!
First known release of radiation.
Dope! And so, they just told you all the lies. For every accident, this is what they roll out. But if a terrorist gets it, then they got to storm your community, and they got to seize everything you got in your community, and they got to harass you in your community. They got to have every nuclear facility got to have millions of dollars of security, billions of dollars of security every year in order to maintain their idiocracy. And this is about free money for them. There ain't no terrorists. They're the terrorists. Okay, let's keep going on the headlines. Neutron sources found 1 mile from Fukushima plant after 3/11. Some fuel may have been injected from the spent fuel pool. Do you think that the fuel pools that are missing and that atomized and aerosoled and that building 3 behind me, right, that one here, do you think that it was ejected out of that? Well, you'd be right. But you won't hear those headlines very often, but there they are. January the 16th, 2013. And so, you know, we do believe based on the information from TEPCO. Now, these emails, there's a couple of million of them below my video. There's a link to the official site. And you can go through the emails in chronological order. And there's 2,000 pictures below my videos here. So you can go through them and see the reactors yourself taken by the Fukushima 50. And there's probably thousands of these 50s. That were used up and thrown away like toilet paper. Nuclear chain reaction may have lasted over 7 months at Fukushima. Chernobyl lasted 10 days. Chernobyl was equal to 400 Hiroshima bombs. Chernobyl was 1/3 the size. Chernobyl was a 30% meltdown. Chernobyl, once again, stopped after 10 days. Chernobyl, he sent in 1 million people. Chernobyl, he snatched people off the streets in Chernobyl to go into Chernobyl. And Chernobyl was 1/3 the size. Let me see if I can find that clip for everybody. I got a feeling tomorrow will be Unit 4 by the time this show is. We're only doing 1 hour shows, half-an-hour questions and answers. Here you go. Yeah, that's the one. Chernobyl, he snatched people off the street. Here, listen to this.
When the robots broke down because of the extreme radioactivity, men were sent in to clean up the site. They were not volunteers. They were picked up off the streets and press-ganged onto the roof. When the
My goodness, right? You know, but it's like a banana or a potato chip if you go to the media like I showed you earlier, right? It's like walking in sunshine. It's like licking that iPhone charger. We mocked her for a couple of months straight. Every show we mocked her. I was pretending I was licking an iPhone charger. Because it's outrageous. And then they used me to try to demonize me because I was the only one that come out and articulated what was going to happen and how it was going to play out at WIP. And I was right. Everything I said came true. Every single sentence came true, didn't it? Every single one of them. Exactly what I said they were going to do. And they could never get down in the mind till they done this and done that. I mean, they evacuated WIP because of a truck fire. Right, 2 weeks later, they admitted that there was a radiation release. No one was back down in Des Moines since the truck fire. So they hit it up, and then they come out and lie to you over and over and over and over and over, like the video I showed you earlier. Bananas, licking iPhone chargers, walking in sunshine, X-rays, getting on an airplane. You can't trust them. You can't support them. You can't use their venues because they're just filthy people. They're disgusting animals. They got a job working at the TV stations on top of that, so they can lie to you because they know what they're doing. They got the accolades, the degrees, the merits to go do that, to be outrageous lawyers. Nuclear chain reaction may have lasted over 7 months. So Chernobyl was equal to 10 Hiroshima bombs and over 10 days, right? 400 Hiroshima bombs over 10 days. So 3 sevens, 210 days. So 21 times 400 Hiroshima bombs is 8,400 Hiroshima bombs. But each of the if you compare Japan's reactor, but each reactor is 3 times the size. So times 3 is 25,000 Hiroshima bombs. And each reactor was 100% meltdown in Japan. Chernobyl was a 30%, so times 3 again. So times 3. 75,000 Hiroshima bombs. And so, you know what I'm saying? The comparisons. And then you got 3 100% meltdowns times 3 in Japan, where Chernobyl was only 1. And then you got all that time that's gone by. Now, that's not counting the spent fuel pools that we talk about all the time. Nuclear chain reaction may have lasted over 7 months. That's what that means. But the chain reaction didn't stop. It didn't stop at 7 months. It's still going on 4.5 years later. So 225,000 Hiroshima bombs. That's just being polite and using the model they used. The real model, because they were using mixed oxide plutonium-uranium combinations reclaimed from nuclear missiles that have been already through a chain reaction, were already 2 million times worse. And when you put them through the chain reaction again, they're 2 million times again. So originally, you can probably pick them up. Once they went through the chain reaction, they're 2 million times worse. You can't get near of it. A pound of it will kill everybody in the front row of a theater in a minute and everybody in the theater in 20 minutes. A pound of it. Now, if you took that pound and put it through a chain reaction again, it's 2 million times worse. But that pound, after it went through a chain reaction, I know like Rod Adams at Atomic Insight says, oh, he took fuel rods and took a little torch and tried to light it. You don't pick up a fuel rod. That's a rod before it went through the chain reaction. But if they tried that with a rod that went through a chain reaction, they wouldn't be telling you any stories because their body would be on a nuclear waste site. That's how this stuff works, see? But that's the lie. That's the game. That's the hoodwink that they got on you for 70 years. They're really good at it. And they do this because they make money on the nuclear industry. They couldn't get a job anywhere else. And they make a lot of money. And the bank will give them anything they want. Whatever they want. Oh, you work for the nuclear power plant? What do you want? I'll give it to you. Top government official, MOX fuel could be neutron source. So the mixed oxide fuel is what I was just talking about. Just to get you up to speed, right? Only some of the Fukushima melted fuel is now solid. That's TV. January 29, 2015, molten core remelts even with enough cooling water. And the Fukushima accident was the first of its kind. In comparison, like Chernobyl was a candle. Just a little candle. One of those little cheap $1 candle that burns out in about 40 minutes. That's what Chernobyl was in any kind of comparison to Fukushima. There is no comparison. Outside of, that's the only model we really got to work with. You know what I'm saying? You can't sell the land in UK because of Chernobyl, but don't worry about Fukushima, and the jet streams come straight here. Straight here. The Japanese used to fly balloons with bombs on it over here. Right? Remember that? Think about it. Look up firebomb on Wikipedia. Not that you can trust everything on Wikipedia, but it does mention the story. Melted fuel in reactor 3 appeared to have burned through the pressure of the vessel, loaded with rods containing plutonium that was reclaimed from the nuclear missiles and was already 2 million times worse than the original one and is now 2 billion times worse. Number 3 was 2 million reactors, the animosity equivalent, in danger. It's cannibalizing all the rocks, the steel, the rebar in the chain reaction. So then anything that falls down on top of it, including water, becomes ionized and radiated and released back into the environment. That's a good way of looking at it, because that's exactly how it works. 76 trillion becquerels of plutonium-239 released from Fukushima. That's 76 trillion cancers. That's how you look at that. 76 trillion cancers if you can distribute it out. 23,000 times higher than previously announced. That's Unit 3. And we're halfway through the show, and we still got quite a ways to go to get through the material I was supposed to get through today, so we better keep moving. Fukushima number 3 is long vertical cracks down the side of the reactor vessels. Long vertical cracks, March the 25th, 2011. That's game over. But they continue to lie till today, even today. Number 3, MOX fuel rods have spread out, surrounding areas contaminated with plutonium. You can never return to this area. Let's look at number 3 again. Is that or is that not devastating? Let me bring up a cleaner picture. Maybe I got a better picture on my desktop right at my fingertip. Hard to say with me sometimes. I got too much. And the only way to get over there. Yeah, Unit 3. Hang on, we'll find a good one for you right quick here. Maybe not. Make a lawyer out of me. Okay. Well, just let me hit on these headlines. Is government trying to contaminate every region of Japan by burning radioactive debris? If everyone is contaminated in a relative sense, nobody is. 300 times more radiation released into the atmosphere from burning debris. So they're digging up all this debris. They're bagging it all up. And then, let me give you a picture. And they're bagging it all up. And when people are not looking, trucks are coming in and moving it to other prefectures throughout Japan and burning it in the incinerators. This stuff should be in a nuclear waste site till the end of our solar system, and instead they're burning it. And so if you know anything about trans-Pacific pollution, I'll just touch on that for a second. If I can find it, who knows with me. Some days they're diamonds, some days they're not. And so when you burn it, trans-Pacific, we know it brings over the mineral dust. Here's another good one for you. Radioactive plume contaminated the entire northern hemisphere during a relatively short period of time. Well, forest fires travel that same route, right? The trans-Pacific air pollution is well known. It's a well-known corridor anyway. And these radioactive substances were carried straight up, and then the jet stream whisked them right across to us. Let's keep going. And I'll close that because otherwise I'll digress. So, yeah, it found its way, and that whole area, I mean, it blew up and distributed throughout that whole area. Sorry. Yeah, we already covered that one. So, number 3, spent fuel pool at over 1 million times normal, generated during nuclear fission. So, the pool had went into its own chain reaction. This is not a campfire where you throw water over it. It is a campfire where you throw water over and it keeps relighting itself over and over and over and over and over because it never went out. You can't put it out. That's the problem. We don't have the technology. But that's why we gotta rally. That's why we gotta come to a consensus that there is an issue. You know, the first thing we gotta do is admit there's an issue. And why we're talking about bananas and potato chips and walking in the sunshine and lying and manipulating just everybody constantly in every venue out there, how can we have a conversation? How can we ever find a way forward? How can we ever have a future? How can we ever have peace? How can we even have comfort in knowing how can we pretend we got a future when this is the worst thing imaginable, and they won't tell anybody. They'll just keep downplaying it for corporations, for an ideology of nuclear. They have to lie about every aspect of nuclear. They say it's carbon-free, they dig up thousands of mountains. It takes decades to build a plant. The list is endless. The pollution is released into the community, into the ocean, is dumped in our landfills. And I mean, if you don't really understand that part, underground fire, outside of St. Louis, has burned since 2010 near a nuclear waste dump. And so they got disaster is to move the whole community. And the precedence has been done before with this stuff, where they did move whole communities. In case a landfill fire hits a nuclear waste, it's 1,000 feet away. At some point, that's going to turn into a chain reaction, and you got to melt it. And now, in that spot, there's around 6,700 tons of plutonium, right? And Yoshi Shimatsu was covering that in the Jeff Rince's radio show last night. I was there. They couldn't get me on the normal system. I ended up having to phone in. They got hold of me, then I phoned them in on the other line. But they couldn't get me on the normal phone system. My number wouldn't go through for them. And so this is constant with me anyway. I'm always demonized. I'm always being attacked. And I didn't do nothing wrong. I don't lie. I show you all the documentation. And these episodes, you know, if the industry wants to say Dana is wrong, here's my case that I'm arguing in these episodes. Each of these episodes is the case. So this is not like a comedy show. This is not like a sitcom. This is a show meant to help everybody that's trying to learn or willing to learn or understands that they have to learn and that they need the very basis of the whole broken system in order to learn is the problem. And they need the data. Who's going to go out and get all the data that I got? Who's going to go out and do the things I've done? Who's going to come out here and put it into context like I do? Tell me, for goodness sakes, please. I really want to find that person. I'm so tired of doing it myself. But I'm only doing it because we got to. We got no choice. And I'll come over to this one after. That's my site, thenuclearproctologist.org. And I'll break that down in 20 minutes' time. When the show is over, we'll do a half an hour questions and answers or just chats. And because I love the people that are paying attention, the chat room, you know, I need support too. And so that's, you know, we enhance each other synergistically. Iodine 131 in number 3 spent fuel pull at over 1 million times normal. But there's 10 times iodine 132 there. For every iodine 131 created, there was 10 times more 132. 30 times more 133. You don't hear him talking about that, do you? And 31 times more iodine 129 with a 15 million year half-life. 15 million. And so half-life is times 10. There's 10 half-lives. But if you could go look up the physics of it, then you find out that the half-lives actually never stop. Because you added an extra electron to a neutron bombardment to an element, and you know, it's like H2O2 where it accepted an extra oxygen molecule, but in that case it's spring-loaded, right? And that's why peroxide will off-gas the extra molecules. But the nuclear chain reaction doesn't do that. It's permanent. You can't take the electron out of the atom itself. And you put 2 million atoms on the head of a needle, that's 2 million cancers distributed out. And it's like that till the end of time. That's why we have the nuclear regulatory regulations that we allegedly have, that we actually don't. But they're there, if you want to do something, they're there to stop you. But if they want to do something, it's there to cover it up. It's shocking. Like that clip I played you earlier, for a week and a half, they come out and told you lies about WHIP. I was like a walking in the sunshine, like a banana. Scientists say it's no worse than natural background radiation. Japan nuclear expert, I presume melted fuel reacted violently with the cement of number 3. And now so it cannibalized the cement. And then it atomized and aerosoled it. And that is cancers. And a gram of it produces more atoms than every grain of sand on every beach on the planet. And that's the same thing with the cement. It's not quite the same numbers. Say 3 grams of cement is the same amount of atoms as every grain of sand on every grain of beach on the planet. Or even a pound, whatever you want to say. But in context, distributed out, that's enough to give everybody cancers. Everybody got a single atom. That's the problem. But it takes so long. It might not show up for 20, 30, 40 years. It might show up to autoimmune deficiencies, 1,800 of them, within days, weeks, months, or a year, or 2 years or so. 2 other reactors of serious core damages, indicating there are holes in the bottoms of vessels number 2 and 3. Now we're doing number 3. It's probably all we're going to get through today is number 3. We'll do number 4 tomorrow. And we'll move, you know, all we can do is cover it properly. We can't rush through it. And we can't say, okay, I'm going to move ahead to another subject and not finish it. And so the episodes are the episodes of telling the story. And we try to, you know, we have a curriculum to go through. But if not, we finish that curriculum the next day. Rapid meltdowns happened at number 2 and 3, indicated by the black smoke in number 3. And the black smoke in number 3 was the mixed oxide fuel. May the 17th, 2011, TEPCO now acknowledges that a fuel meltdown occurred at 3 of the plant's 6 reactors. But yet they're still out there lying to you today in your media, in your blogs, the PR firms. It's shocking. See, we'll cover that in one of the episodes coming up of all the apologists that we identified so far. We'll probably end up doing 3 episodes just on that alone in the near future. And so this is a new show, and we're only going to get better each day. Melted fuel in reactor number 3, and we will be doing interviews in a number of months' times. Right now we're doing a documentary, and I'll talk about that after the show. Melted fuel in reactor number 3 appeared to burn through the pressure vessels, loaded with rods containing plutonium. So, and plutonium is like the worst thing possible because of the way it affects. And we know how plutonium affects people because we know from the studies by Dr. Raymond Gilmedy from Loveless Respiratory Research Institute. He'd done the studies for 35 years. He's just one of many of plutonium, 239, 238s, and their daughters, americium, neptuniums, in the beagle dogs, beagle puppies. And I'm not kidding you, beagle dogs and beagle puppies. Toxicity of inhaled plutonium dioxide in beagle dogs. I mean, this man showed us, you know, there can be no doubt. There can be no doubt of how dangerous this stuff is. You know, I keep saying that word, I know, but because I think I don't have to do everything I'm doing to make the point. I think I have to do everything I'm doing to drive that point home. And so that's why I do it that way. You can argue with one little facet of what I'm talking about, one little nuance of what I'm talking about, but you can't argue with every single headline after headline after headline after headline after headline after headline after headline, day after day after day, week after week. Can you? See? So what the nuclear industry does, apologists to the cowards of the industry, is they'll find that something where I misspoke something, chop it up, and attack me on that in a blog, and the people reading it doesn't understand that they missed everything else, the other 500 headlines. I mean, we've covered over 9,000 headlines before we gave up counting. So now we're really good at organizing it, into categorizing it, and just creaming the crop and showing you indisputable. From mainstream media all over this planet. What do you want? It's not me. I'm telling you the story, but I'm showing you the data. How can I do any more? I don't know how I can do any more than that. I don't know how I can supply any more than that. I wouldn't know where to go to find any more than what I'm doing for everybody. Of how I did never expect it to be still telling this story. I suspected within months I would break the story down and everybody would become articulate and we would have debates. Instead, the industry has hired more PR firms, more magazines, more bloggers, and then the mainstream media will do and say whatever they want to say without a counter argument, without a left or a right, or far left, far right, extreme left, extreme right, nihilistic, Pol Pot, Mao, progressive, democratic. You know, it's all this, just a left, and there should be just a left and a right, and then each of them have to admit that there's a flaw. If they got a flaw in their ideology, say, okay, well, that's a flaw, I got to get rid of that. That's not going to help me by lying and deceiving everybody, but this is what they do. And they help themselves by doing that because everybody's fighting with each other. That's not true. My politician didn't say that. New TEPCO analysts showed 94% of the nuclear fuel melted in reactor number 3. 94%. Another quick picture for you. Number 3. 94%, yeah, because the rest of it was buried under the rubble. Or blown out into the neighborhood. And plowed under the ground. The rest of it was atomized in aerosol. That's what they're saying. 94% was atomized in aerosol and went into the jet streams and came over here. Okay, we got to keep moving. We got 15 minutes. No TEPCO analysts showed 94%. Done that one, Dana. 2 explosions may have occurred early on at reactor number 3, very similar to Chernobyl. Chernobyl was a cakewalk. Chernobyl was a candle. Chernobyl wasn't even like... Chernobyl's not even that. Chernobyl's death to a forest fire. Look, that's what if you had a forest fire in the background and I was holding this up, you wouldn't see it. That's what Chernobyl is. Don't get me wrong, Chernobyl was horrible, over 1 million dead. But in comparison, you gotta watch me because that microphone is really sensitive. I gotta get a soundboard so I can make the sound much better. But right now it's working. 2 explosions may have occurred early on at reactor number 3, very similar. Likely at least several hundred pounds of plutonium ejected. Ejected. Keep going. Japan's nuclear expert, massive remelting occurred at reactor number 3. I said 3. I'm just kidding. And number 3. That's my accent. Sometimes I don't know why I say those words because that's the dialect that I normally would speak. And everybody knows that that's not the right way to say it, but we say that in our community. It's okay. We're not going to make fun at you because you say something. And when a kid says it's so cute, right? I want treat. And so everybody giggles. And so it's not because we're ignorant people. It's just because we have our own little dialect. We're comfortable with not having to be walking around with our nose up in the air because somebody didn't say it the way I was trained in Harvard or Yale. Let me keep going. Gotta watch me because I'll invert. And I do at the end of the show anyway. Into Dana again. And that's just my personality. Japan nuclear expert. Melted. Another engineer, radioactive steam continuously leaking out. It's not radioactive steam, it's radiation. You can call it steam because it went from 3, 4, 5, 6,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures to the normal ambient temperature and it manifested. It looks like steam, but it's not steam. You go suck that up and you're a dead man walking. You are a dead man walking. And, we'll cover that later in the streams here of the effects upon the people, localized. Next week we'll be covering Japan. Will be Japan week. So all week long will be headlines on Japan. And I tell you, I got doozies I've never gotten to, but I read once in a while myself, and I'll be going through all of that. And just mind-boggling how twisted and demented and evil and maniacally disgusting and heartless and cold-hearted these people actually are. How your governments are. I'll be covering all of that. Japan allows triple meltdown because we documented it. We got it. We got all the headlines. Japan allows triple amount of cesium in food than Chernobyl did. Over 50% of the store-bought seafood samples contaminated with radiation. How many atoms does it take to get a cancer? 1. See? How many does it take to get Alzheimer's, dementias, diabetes, respiratory problems, heart problems, liver problems, kidney problems? 1. How many atoms do you got to eat to liquidate your assets in 10, 20, 30 years? 1. You're driving past a nuclear power plant and you sucked up an atom and you put 2 million atoms in a hit or needle. You can't see it. Does that mean it didn't exist? See? That's how that works. Because you changed the property of the atom and nothing in our universe has ever encountered that atom before. That's why they call it man-made. That's why they have nuclear waste sites. Well, they're holding sites. There's no such thing as a waste site. They just keep making it and dumping it in your communities and not tell you about it. And then 20 years later, it catches fire, and you got to prepare to evacuate your community and lose all your assets. How can it get any worse than what we already got done? Is we don't try to do anything to resolve it. and if we lose the entire planet. Right now we lost the Pacific Ocean. We can't save the Pacific Ocean. All the herring, the sardines, the anchovies, all the very basis of the food chain is completely gone. And I'll cover that at the end of the show. On the Fukushima Expedition for Life, that's what we have been doing for the last year, exploring the coastline for 260 days of Canada. And we have the documentation we were putting up at the nuclearproctologist.org. We got 10 minutes to go. Let me keep going. Plutonium, uranium reactor number 3, they've all been blown out. This was no ordinary explosion. Let's have another quick look at number 3, because that's all we're going to get today is number 3, which is fine. And tomorrow will be number 4 and other stuff. But it's so important to tell the story and not rush through it. And so I'm not going to rush through it. I was hoping to get through it, but I digressed all over the place. If you want to call it that. I don't call it that because what I done was I went out and got these pictures and the video clips and everything else, because we got to jazz up the show. And as we get better, we'll be doing interviews and we'll be doing all kinds of... I'll be going through the communities, going through America next year, hopefully with the documentary and the book. And that this is a lifelong ordeal for everybody and that we will deal with it rationally. So did everything blow out of this? Yeah. Did everything get spread all over the place when this one kapowie? Yeah. Was this devastating? Yeah. So why are they telling us it's like a banana or a potato chip? Because that's what they make big dollars doing. And so why shouldn't you call them out? Why shouldn't you hold them accountable? Why shouldn't somebody, anybody, hold them accountable? Because everybody's in on it. If you're in mainstream media, you are a PR firm. For whatever corporation got a problem today or tomorrow, you are there to help them. That's your job. And if you're murdering people doing it, it doesn't matter. That's your job. You've got to sell whatever their message was, or they'll get somebody to do it. And so the people that got the job knows exactly what they're doing and got the job so they could do it. And so if you want to know who evil is, you look at your TV set. Every news station out there, that's evil. Every newspaper out there, that's evil. Every writer in every newspaper, whether he wants to or not, is evil. Because he stays there. And he writes the propaganda and allows the editors to manipulate it. There is no middle ground on what I said there. That's the most pathetic thing imaginable. See? That we live in that society. But we can contain that society. There's not that many of these people. They just happen to be holding those key positions. And as this planet wakes up, they're done. And good riddance. Let the night of the brown shirts begin, in one sense. They gotta go. Plutonium, uranium, reactor 3 has all been blown out. And the government is concealing the truth. There is no such thing as a government. It's a bunch of thugs that are inbreeding over and over and over and running our government. And our government is just supposed to be employees. Instead, they try to turn themselves into our leaders and our masters. And they are not leaders. They are not masters. They are cowards, and they will run away from you when you confront them. They will run away from you if you question them. They will run away from you if you speak to them. They are only used to speaking to their secretaries or people in a room with a murderous plot. China syndrome inevitable, says architect of Fukushima reactor number 3. Warns of massive hydrovolcanic explosion, and the melted fuel inevitably sank underground. November the 19th, 2011, China syndrome was already going on. So he couldn't come out and say that, and he said what he said. So there you go. I think we got through it. That was... So nuclear consultant doubts official temperature estimates. Reactor number 3 probably much nearer to thousands of degrees. Thousands. And that's important because high iodine levels mean number 3 quarter spent fuel pool is starting up itself. That's J reaction. And so I think this was the last headline. NRC afraid the bottom of the reactor number 3 will break and dump everything out. First time it's mentioned the problem. I mean, my goodness. So, newly surfaced video. This was the last headline in Section 3. For sometimes NRC staff has contemplated that all the reactor cores are ex-vessel. That meant they left the vessel immediately due to the time without cooling. So, when the tsunami ran through the country, when that tsunami was running through the country, And so let's play a little clip of that. I got a strike on my account last week for playing one of those green ones there, so I'm not touching that no more. And so this is a little tiny spot, and I'll just let that play out there, and hopefully I don't get another. So it doesn't. The video that I made a few days back, not part one of this, was restricted to many countries, but it was a typical. It was a Japanese video of a tsunami, and so I'm not. It's restricted in Japan. So a tsunami video, one of my last videos, because it was owned by a company in Japan, is not allowed to be played in Japan. You can't make that stuff up, see? So as this tsunami comes through the community, what does it do? For 500 miles, what's it doing? For 500 miles, it's taking out the entire infrastructure. So how could they get power when this thing came through? How could they get power when this was taking out all the buildings and telephone poles and all the lines for 500 miles? How could you not have meltdowns? How could you not have, because you need 1 million gallons a minute of water to cool down the reactor. And so it doesn't take only a few minutes for it to start to get out of control. After 90 minutes, it's starting to melt down. Once it starts to melt down, there is no way to control it. Right? And so as these tsunamis ravage the entire country, every nuclear plant is on the ocean, 90% of them or whatever, and so they were all destroyed. That's why they're not starting any nuclear plants out on the coastline. They're starting the ones up high in the mountains, right? Up in the hills. But they're not going to do the ones alongside the ocean because they were wrecked. But they're not going to tell you about that. And we covered a lot of that yesterday. But you can imagine 500 miles of coastline getting pummeled. Yeah? Does that make any sense to you now? Okay. And so let's go cover some more headlines, because otherwise we'll never get rid of that. We'll never get through all of that stuff. And so now we're going to go in and talk about other. So I'll pick up here and I'll just run through these for the next 5 minutes. We got 3 minutes. Okay, I'll just do 5 or 6 of these, and then we'll come over, and that's the end of the show. And we'll do a half an hour, hopefully, of chatting. And I'll say good night to everybody. Good day to everybody in the chat room at Beautiful Girl by Dana on YouTube. If you go to the front of my page and click uploads. So if you come over to, just make sure you can find the stream if you're just showing up the next time. You go to Beautiful Girl by Dana on YouTube, one word, and you go to my uploads and you click live streams. And usually 10 hours now or so before the next stream will show up as the very first one here. Right now, this is the live stream we're looking at right now. And that's how you find the live streams. It's 10 a.m. Pacific Canada time, British Columbia Canada time, 10 a.m. each morning, 5 days a week. And and now today I'll be uploading, starting today, I'll be uploading more pictures at the nuclearproctologist.org. And you come over to section 2, that's where all the last expeditions. Section 1 is the first 4 expeditions. Plus there's all kinds of documentation headlines about Fukushima in context of jet streams, oceans, Canada, California. And section 2 is a new section, and as you scroll down, these are the recent pictures from a 6-week expedition that I took down the coastline of Canada. And if you're not familiar with that, I'll play a 30-second trailer before the show ends of the Fukushima expedition for life. And this is us, Dana and myself, actually out there on the ocean. And I'm in the Queen Charlotte's several months ago in this particular little trailer. And that trip was 5 months long. So let me come over and look for any questions. It's moving pretty fast here. Hi, Brian. Ellie. Siegfried. Bob. Miss Milky. YouTube took my thumbs up, she says, but always allows me to thumb down anything. Go figure. That's Jan Brooks at Miss Milky the Clown 1. You'll find links below. And she's a voracious appetite for media reports about Fukushima. And she'll put up both sides, even the bad stuff, because how else are we going to find it, of the arguments. And so it's a really good site. It's been around for quite a long time. She's probably one of the first people out there on it, most likely. And Miss Milky the Clown 1 is her current site. Miss Milky the Clown is her original site. And there's thousands of mainstream media videos there about it. So if you're a researcher or you're trying to find out information that you're looking for in particular, that's a pretty good spot to go start searching. And Chuck, Albert, No, Bob, Nuts for Art. And that's Lonnie. Lonnie's got a radio show. I'll be on her show next week, or I think it is. And we got Ain't Gesture. Hey, buddy. And Brian, thank you. Yeah, you're welcome, Chuck. Thank you. And so we're just looking for any comments or any kind of anything that anybody want me to mention. As usual, because I cover it in such big details, and this is a new part of, and this is a new program that we're doing here. It's going to take a while for people to really. Because usually at the end of the show is gone and so am I. But now we got the chat room is open for half an hour. If we get any questions. Yeah, Miss Milky got over 2,000 videos. And thank you, everybody. No Zoe on water ski clips. Just her. Did you keep any kind of journal or log on the journey other than photo log? Yeah, I done a video log of the whole journey. I just turned the video camera on and yammered along. And it's so hard to do anything on the ocean. You got to realize how difficult it was just to do what I was doing every day. I did intend to keep a journal, and the only way I was able to do it was video journal, which is fine because you got the video camera. You're saying, look, hey, this is what I'm talking about. So instead of writing it down, I'll type it out. And the intentions was I can type it all out later for the book and for the documentary, right? But I did use high quality at the same time, just in case. And Kate, hi Kate, hugs honey, thank you. These shows you're liking that, that's good. And Kate's got the Fukushima hounds over there. You'll find links right away below my video about that. Douglas, Cotton Top, that's Mickey, folks. Let me see if I find anybody else. Yeah, Nabtel, thank you. And Elaine is out there. I know I seen her earlier. Candace was out there. Amthurst. I got a really bad throat. It's a bit better because I'm not yelling all the time. And so anybody? Good question. Ellie asked the question, what did you eat while on the boat, Dana? I ate mostly raw vegetables, uncooked. I never, of course, ate anything out of the ocean. And I wouldn't eat anything out of the Pacific Ocean. I'm going to eat any fish that'll be out of the Atlantic. And even then, I'm probably not going to eat it. I don't trust, not trust, it's just that I happen to know. I pay attention. The model above me is just 2 radioactive elements out of 2,000 that we know about, and there's over 10,000 that are classified. Fix it! Nef killer! So Zifrey says, for those who are not familiar with number 2, please explain why that building is still in one piece. Yeah, if I could do that, I'd be laughing. Well, the meltdown was so fast it went straight down into the earth. Like, it did blow up, but we don't know because we can't get in there, so I can't say 100%. But I always assumed that the meltdown was so fast and so complete, and that it blew the vents out the side of it. You can't see it there, but the building stayed intact. But that was the only building that stayed intact, but we know the documentation shows it melted and left the building. And we know how hot this stuff gets, and we know they were using plutonium in all the reactors. We know plutonium will reach 8,000-9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures in no time at all. And we know that plutonium rather burns up to 200,000 times hotter than the uranium. And so, one of these had to do that anyway, where it just took off and went down into the earth and done that thing. Starlight! And Starlight got an awesome video that I've never seen for a long time. Then I finally seen it. And it's just so talented. Video makers, amazing. And probably one of the first real videos that Starlight sat there and tried to make, but just fantastic work. Adam, yeah, I think the daytime shows are a good way to reach people. And so like on the East Coast is not late in the day, on the West Coast or in America is not late. So we're on the same kind of time schedules. And so Europe is a good time, countries and stuff like that. The English speaking countries, for the most part, is a good time to catch people. And so as time goes by, you know, we'll build up this audience again, because we just spent 260 days on the ocean out of 365. This is only my second show, and so the expeditions are all over. I'll be uploading pictures for the next month and a half, 2 months minimum, probably at the nuclearproctologist.org. And anybody's not familiar with that, once again, I'll just pop that up for a quick boo for everybody. And so at the bottom, there's 200 pictures on each page. And at the bottom of each page, there's a couple of hundred headlines. And they really tell the story. And so any of the pictures, any of the headlines, just click on anything. And then left or right of it in the black. You don't have to be on the arrow. You can be up above the arrow and click, and it'll change headlines. You can be right alongside of it and click either side of it or the arrows, right? And you can close it down and scroll down. There's pictures there you can kind of look at. And that's number 4. Just a good collection for yourself, a good way to help you slow down and understand it. These pictures are inside of Unit 4. That's the Fukushima 50. You got to give them a few moments sometimes to clean up. Sometimes they're not that high quality. But that's the original pictures from TEPCO's website. You can download them under my video. You can download them from my site, thenuclearproctologist.org. There's a couple of thousand pictures up there in section 1. You can find all of that. Dana, Unit 3 looks like a nuke went off. And you have a picture of the lid reactor. That's Cotton, Mickey. Yeah, okay. It is saying lane closed. Yeah, that's right. No, the whole... Yeah, and I showed those pictures, actually, I do believe. Scramble tank. And anybody else? Bleeding heart, root for a sore throat, Chuck says. Every 22 days, I guess you're talking about going around the world. Yeah. Raw honey, I went and got some raw honey yesterday, actually. I got a big container about this big. That'll get me through a couple of months. And that's what I'm doing right now, actually. So we covered that one, Jester, St. Louis underground. And that's a disaster. In fact, they actually have a evacuation plan now that they unsealed. And they had that plan for decades. Because they knew someday that the fire, or there would be an event, and that nuclear waste site buried underground would become a problem. They would have to evacuate the community. So now they unsealed it. Yeah, so we're dealing with a maniacal industry that hides it away, and when it happens, blames everybody or terrorists or anybody, rather than admit that they made a mistake. Okay, well, I guess we're doing okay. We'll call it quits. Yeah. Radical Home Goddess. Hi, honey. Thank you. Hugs for your loved ones. I know your husband's probably working right now, but hugs for him when he comes home. Look, the ocean is dead. Pacific Ocean is dead. There's no scientists out there I would put any faith in anymore. There's no journalists out there I would put my faith into. Only the documentation. And the documentation of the entire Pacific Ocean, of the British Columbia, Canada coastline, from one end of the coastline, from Alaska, all the way down to the other end of the coastline. 15,000 miles in between it is all right here. Dead ocean. And at the bottom of it, throughout this whole site, there's all kinds of headlines on the Pacific Ocean, on the jet streams, on the ocean contamination, of mass mortalities, events, in chronological order a lot of the times. And so the fact that they're even talking about the ocean dying means they're going to try to cover it up and blame it on tin cans and pop bottles and cardboard. And so the beer out here, I'll end it on this one. The beer's out here. There's no snow left in our mountains because of the tritium. And we've never thought we'd ever see that in a billion years, but there's no snow in any of the mountains. And British Columbia, Canada has snow all year long. And there's no fish. There's no meat. It's been a total failure. And no berries. And so the bears are eating apples. And what do you think they're going to eat after they eat the apples? They're eating garbage cans in the communities because there ain't no fish, there ain't no meat in their scat, the bear scat. And now we're really going to see desperation. And these are powerful animals. We had someone attacked here a few weeks ago by a bear. Over 50 bear sightings in the last couple of weeks in just one little area. Everybody's garbage can has been destroyed in that whole area. Everybody's garbage cans. And the bears are surviving on apples because there's nothing else out there. We're looking at an extinction event. It's just one of the many, many, many signs. Thomas Ackerman, Rattle Shark, Miss Milky, Fix It, and everybody else. Nuts for Art, Chucker, Whiz Kitten. Hi Jamie, Carly Moore. We say Lee out in Siaman, and Jester LA. And that's all we got today. And so that's a good live stream. That's episode 1. And the idea is, as we get through these episodes, anybody that's trying to find out will go to pilot episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And by then they'll be extremely articulate, and no one's going to pull the wool over their eyes. And that they'll be better people and better prepared and more able and more humbled and more honest in their everyday life, because they understand that life is extraordinarily precious, and that all together, us, just as that beginning, will prove that that we are doing a moral and ethical thing, and that the people that are out there that are unethical and without morals will be held accountable, even in a descending voice. So hugs for everybody. Once again, I'm Dana Durford. You can find the documentation at thenuclearproctologist.org, and you'll find all my videos at Beautiful Girl by Dana on YouTube. We'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 14th, and we'll be doing Unit 4 and other pertinent issues that we didn't cover today. Hugs for everybody. Take care, folks.